It's a new week, and NMH at 1 still has you covered with the latest news across Namibia and beyond the country, all coming to you throughout the lunch hour. Here's what to expect in this Monday broadcast. Launch of Namibian Constitution in braille, one small step for persons with disabilities. Annual Miss Namibia pageant concludes. Namibia Hydrogen Energy Conference expected to commence tomorrow. Strict Chinese COVID-19 regulations prevent Namibian students from going back to complete their studies. I am Ashwin Berry, here to bring you these stories and more on NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, a family from Sikali village in Namibia's Kavango West have relocated from their homestead because they believe the shack they lived in is cursed. They said they were emotionally tortured by the shack where Naimi Ngambo Kalenga was killed by her partner 3 years ago. Culturally, the structure, which is still standing 3 years after the horrible incident of 16 August 2019, was supposed to be destroyed a year later by the accused family. This has, however, not happened, and as a result, Kalenga's family decided instead to relocate their homestead. Kalenga, who was 23 at the time, was brutally killed by her boyfriend, an Angolan national, who hacked her to death with a traditional axe. Her brother Johannes Shiami said his mother decided to relocate because of the bad memories the shack brings them. More news coming to you on the other side of this break. Remember to engage with these stories on social media as we share some community news stories from across the country on the other side of this very short break in our visual news segment.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Heading into this afternoon's visual news clips, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Foundation, in partnership with the Namibian Federation for the Visually Impaired, launched the Namibian Constitution in Braille last week. During her keynote address, Acting Ministry of Justice Executive Director Felicity Oasis explains that there are still several needs that persons with disabilities have that need to be catered to.
Data that needs to inform our policies and laws. Second is the practical implementation of the policies and laws that have been enacted or have been published or adopted by cabinet. The other is the collective decision-making for government to speak one voice when it comes to persons with disabilities, because it makes no sense to have scattered or uncoordinated plans and policies. And because that results in uncoordinated or unharmonized implementation of such. The other aspect is the infrastructure, such as roads and education and workplaces, that are still not adequately catering for persons with disabilities. The other aspect is the financial, the human resource, and the technical needs that persons with disabilities have in order to further their specific rights. Linked to this is also aspects of training. Training not only of interpreters, but training also of caregivers to ensure that the needs of persons with disabilities and rights are met. Last but not least is the aspect of advocacy. And I've taken one point from what was presented here, the need to speak one voice, and so that we are better to able, so that we are in a better position or a stronger position to influence, or let me say, in a stronger position to stand together and influence government policy and lawmaking. And with that, I conclude. Thank you.
The annual Miss Namibia pageant took place on Friday and ended in tears of joy for Cassia Sharpley, who was crowned as Miss Namibia 2022. Leone van Jaarsveld was crowned first runner-up, while Diana Andimba was announced as the second runner-up. The event took place at Vindo Country Club Resort and Casino. The Namibia Hydrogen Energy Conference is starting in the capital on Tuesday and will conclude on Wednesday. Yolanda now has more.
We are headed to the Namibia Green Hydrogen Conference that is starting in the capital on Tuesday and concluding on Wednesday. Let's go check what it's all about. The Economic Association of Namibia, in collaboration with the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board of Namibia, with support from the Hans Siedel Foundation, are proud to announce the Namibia Green Hydrogen Conference for this year, and this will take place on the 16th and 17th of August and will be entirely funded with support from the private sector and non-governmental organizations. It will be a platform for Namibian stakeholders to deliberate and unpack the green hydrogen industry while promoting Namibia as a competitive investment destination. The conference, which will bring together policymakers and parliamentarians, the private sector, academics, the civil society, as well as the public. Green hydrogen is becoming a critical source of energy in global energy markets, playing an increasingly central role in the transition to a green energy future. With usage in diverse areas such as transport, manufacturing and the chemical industry, green hydrogen is expected to play a central role in transforming global industries as countries around the world are seeking to decarbonize their economies. During this conference, stakeholders will look at Namibia's potential as a green hydrogen investment destination, as well as the micro and macroeconomic opportunities, challenges and risks of large-scale investments in green hydrogen for a small and developing economy. They will also take a look at the legal and regulatory framework required to facilitate the successful development of a green hydrogen economy in Namibia. Other discussion points will include infrastructure, human resources, value chain, finance, as well as foreign direct investment.
Today's daily newspapers are packed with topical stories on the state of affairs in the country, ranging from politics and social issues. We'll be highlighting some of these stories after this short break.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts and experts. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact agenda@synergy.com.na. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
You're still with NMH at 1. Let's have a look at what is inside Namibia's dailies. The first newspaper under review is the Namibian Sun, which reports that Amos Shifotoka is among the students whose dreams are fading by the day as strict Chinese COVID-19 regulations continue to prevent Namibian students from going back to complete their studies. He was enrolled at the Jiangsu University in September 2021 for a Bachelor of Civil Engineering course. With local authorities not recognizing online training for aspiring engineers, Shifotoka is exhausted without luck or avenues to return to China to complete his studies, and him and several other Namibian students registered at Chinese universities are currently stuck in Namibia, and this has affected their studies negatively as online classes are constantly cancelled due to poor network. In another story, the paper reports on affirmative repositioning movement spokesperson Simon Amunime, who was laid bare how chief activist Job Amopanda allegedly bullies activists and runs the movement in an undemocratic manner. Appearing on television show The Agenda last night, Amunime did not mince his words, claiming that the movement is hampered by Amopanda's leadership style. He also questioned how Amopanda appointed himself activist-in-chief despite the movement not convening a Congress to elect officials to serve in its leadership. On its inside pages, the paper reports that the Environment Ministry has agreed to co-finance the rehabilitation of water points at the Kavango Cattle Ranch with its trade counterpart to address game and livestock that have died of thirst. The ranch is a government parastatal conglomerate farm administered by the Namibia Industrial Development Agency. Trade Minister Lucia Ipumbu said the ministry, under which NIDA and by extension the KCR's operational mandates form, has seen it as prudent to conduct an assessment at macro level to devise appropriate policy interventions. The Republican reports that Namibians who studied in China and who returned to their home country during the COVID-19 pandemic struggle to continue their studies abroad. Namibia's ambassador to China, Elia Kayamo, confirmed a group of more than 20 Namibian students and an unknown number of new students with bursaries from the Chinese government are currently still in Namibia because of China's strict zero-COVID policy. According to the Republicans, page 3, the Minister of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, Pohamba Shifeta, says European hunters contribute more than half of the total income from hunting activities in Namibia. If the European Union and other countries therefore decide to prohibit the import and export of hunting trophies, it would have disastrous consequences on Namibia's economies and conservation programs. According to the Algemene Zeitung's page 1, the Independent Patriots for Change have maintained the political balance in the Irongo Regional Council after their candidate Luisa Kativa won the Swakopmund constituency by-election on Friday. On its page 3, the paper reports that new facts have come to light about the Phala Phala robbery in South Africa in a report by internet news service News 24. The former intelligence chief is alleged to have stated incorrect facts in his lawsuit. An alleged COVID-19 case was registered as a murder case. Stay with us as we continue with news from the local dailies.
Kletskompas is 'n Afrikaanse kontinuïteitsprogram met Namibiese nuus en onderhoude. As jy jou handelsmerk of veldtog op hierdie platform wil vertoon, kontak klets@synergy.com.na.
Continuing with news from the local newspapers, the Namibian reports on its front page on the inspirational story of a young woman born with one arm who says nothing can stop her. Petrina Ngashiweya, a mother of 4, uses her foot to braid hair, which has made her popular in her location where customers flock to her to get their hair done. The paper also reports that a SWAPO parliamentarian and Central Committee member, Toby Aupindi, says infighting within the ruling party ahead of its upcoming elective Congress has reached toxic levels as members jostle for positions and to be delegates of top leaders. On the Namibian's page 3, President Hage Geingob is reported to have called for the inclusion of youth in leadership structures for them to be represented and express their opinions on important subjects. Geingob said this on the International Youth Day on Friday. Geingob said that Namibian youth should have a primary responsibility to serve as champions of their own development by fully taking part in the socio-economic development in their communities and in the country. On the same page, the first accused in the fishing quotas fraud and corruption case, Ricardo Gustavo, plans to petition the Supreme Court to be allowed to appeal against the judge's refusal to step down from the case. The New Era reports on its front page that Swakopmund Mayor Luisa Kativa is expected to resign as a local authority councillor this week following her by-election victory this weekend. Kativa stood as a candidate of the Independent Patriots for Change for the Swakopmund constituency seat and obtained 3,625 votes, at least 503 clear of SWAPO candidate Solomon Nehemiah. In neighboring Walvish Bay, another shack fire claimed the life of a mother and her 2-year-old son at the Twaloloka informal settlement. The fire, which broke out on Friday evening, left over 20 families homeless. The victims were visiting their friend and his partner, and it is believed that Ermelinda Dausas went back into the shack to save her son, but was trapped by the engulfing flames, which led to both their perish. Page 3 of the New Era reports that bargaining union Namibia Transport and Allied Workers Union revealed that the results of a Trans-Namib workers' nationwide strike vote would be released today. According to Narina Polman, polling stations countrywide will be available today after workers on Friday took to the polls. In another story, the paper reports that the Health Ministry says it will follow normal procedures in investigating the deaths of 2 babies who lost their lives after being immunized at a state clinic in Ongwediva between 18 and 22 July this year. It is alleged that one of the babies died at Oshakati a few hours after immunization, while the other died 5 days after being vaccinated. Health Director Ben Nangombe stated that the Health Ministry has procedures in place to deal with natural and unnatural deaths reported at health facilities. 3 entrepreneurs from Keetmanshoop won their share of 85,000 Namibian dollars through the Old Mutual Sustainable Economic and Empowerment Drive initiative. Old Mutual Namibia, along with Launch Namibia, the Financial Literacy Initiative, and the United Nations Development Program Accelerator Lab, completed the 2nd edition of the OM Seed Initiative on Thursday, with the top 20 Keetmanshoop entrepreneurs taking the stage to pitch their ideas to a panel of 3 judges. During the award ceremony, Unomasa Kavita of Kavita Sports Performance walked away with the first prize of 50,000 Namibian dollars. We are now heading into our economic news segment, where it is reported that German hunters continue to top the list of trophy hunters in Namibia. The full story coming up after the break.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.
Heading into economic news, German hunters continue to top the list of trophy hunters in Namibia, official government statistics show. According to Tourism Minister Pohamba Shifeta, European hunters account for over half of the total hunting revenue to the country. In 2019, a total of 5,001 trophy hunters visited Namibia for hunting. German tourists or hunters totaled 1,792, which counts for 36% of hunters, followed by 934 from the United States and 378 from Austria. 378 from Austria. The number of trophy hunters to Namibia declined to 871 in 2020 due to COVID-19. Last year, the number increased again to 2,587. German hunters once again topped the list with 824, which is 32%, followed by the USA 775, which is 30%, and Hungary with 146, which is 6%. With several European countries mooting an import ban on hunting trophies, Shifeta said such a move will be catastrophic for Namibia's 300 million Namibian dollar hunting economy and its conservation programs, especially if the European Union and other countries decide to ban their import and export. He added that some initiatives are in process to ban the import of trophies into the United Kingdom, Belgium, and Finland. Over 90% of the country's wildlife population occurs on private and communal land, and Namibia has more wildlife now than at any time in the last 100 years. Namibia has just avoided a nationwide strike of public servants, while in contrast, neighboring South Africa finds itself in a similar state of affairs, as the Public Servants Association will begin balloting its members this week on whether to commence with its first strike in over a decade, as the public service wage talks grind with little progress. The last time the PSA went on strike in the public service was in 2010, demanding an 8.6% wage hike, having rejected government's 6.5% offer. That strike was successful. Now, 12 years later, PSA is demanding a 6.5% wage increase as government offers unions 2%. The PSA currently represents around 235,000 public sector employees. In 2020, the public service had an estimated 830,000 employees, including police officers and teachers. A memo that Fin24 has seen from last week showed that the government would only be prepared to raise its baseline offer to 3% if it could introduce cost containment measures, including early retirement without penalties, an exit mechanism for employees between the ages of 60 and 64, and voluntary severance packages subject to an assessment of critical skills. Meanwhile, the Police, Prisons and Civil Rights Union said it resolved at its special National Executive Committee meeting last week that it would march to the union buildings in September to demand an increase that is not less than 10%. Let's have a look at your economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has seen a drop by at least 0.1% in value against these major currencies. Namibia Breweries Limited stock prices dropped by 0.02%, now trading at 40 Namibian dollars. Trustco Group Holding stock prices have increased by 5.30%, now trading for 60 cents on the NSX. Local and overall index have dropped on the NSX. These commodities have dropped in price significantly. Gold prices have dropped by 2.98%. At least 41 people have died in an Egyptian church after an electrical fire swept during Mass. Stay with us for the full story after the break.
Iranga Talk brings you community news in the Oranga region. For news-related or advertising queries, contact irangatalk@synergy.com.na. Iranga Talk, our community, your news.
You are still watching NMH at 1. We now extend to the rest of the continent, and later we'll bring you international news from the rest of the globe. In our first story, an electrical fire swept through an Egyptian Coptic Christian church during Mass yesterday, causing a stampede and killing at least 41 people, most of them children, and many suffering from smoke inhalation. The blaze started just before 9 a.m. in the Abu Sifin church in the city of Giza, where about up to 1,000 people had gathered. The fire blocked an entrance to the church, causing the stampede, the two sources said, adding that most of those killed were children. In a statement, the Interior Ministry said a forensic examination showed that the fire began in the second floor air conditioning as a result of an electrical malfunction. Smoke inhalation was the main cause of death, it said. Families of those who died will receive 100,000 Egyptian pounds, according to a cabinet statement. Giza, Egypt's second largest city, lies just across the Nile from Cairo. I offer my sincere condolences to the families of the innocent victims that have passed on to be with their Lord in one of his houses of worship, said Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in a tweet. Dozens of Ivorian soldiers held in Mali and accused of being mercenaries have been charged with attempting to harm state security and remanded in custody, judicial sources told AFP yesterday. A Malian judicial source said a Bamako prosecutor charged the soldiers on Friday with an attempt to undermine state security. But negotiations between Ivory Coast and Mali to obtain the release of the 49 soldiers were continuing, said a source close to the talk. They have already been detained for more than a month. Ivory Coast has denied the accusation and demanded the troops be released, saying they were reinforcement to the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA. Negotiations have started to free the soldiers, with Togolese President Faure Gnassingbe acting as mediator. A source close to the talks said they had made some progress but stalled over certain points, which might explain the return to the judicial process. Justice will continue its work, but the negotiations will also continue, the source said. The arrest of the soldiers after their arrival at Bamako airport on on July 10 has sparked a diplomatic crisis between military-ruled Mali and its West African neighbor. Diplomatic sources close to the talks say Mali is demanding that Ivory Coast acknowledge its responsibility in the affair and express its regrets for the deployment of the soldiers. Bamako also wants Abidjan to hand over people who have been on its territory since 2013 who are wanted in Mali, said the sources. Ivory Coast has rejected both demands and is preparing for extended negotiations to free its men, they added. Angola has entered the final stretch of the electoral campaign in the upcoming general elections on the 24th of August. The outgoing president, João Lourenço, of the Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, a party that has been in power for 47 years, is seeking to renew his first term. His main opponent is Adalberto da Costa Jr., head of the UNITA party. A total of 8 candidates are seeking the country's top job. To many Angolans, this election is a defining moment that will shape the history of the southwestern African country. These 8 candidates each have a proposal. It's not enough to just talk. It's not enough to just give the proposal, but we want to see what's going to happen 5 years from now. One voter in the capital, Luanda, told Rio News. I think elections are for the people to be able to choose the one who can represent them right, and that's about democracy, another voter commented. Now, about 2.3 million people in the Philippines were pushed into poverty between 2018 and 2021. Shortly, we'll discuss the main contributors as this story takes us into the international news segment. Stay with us.
We are back again with another episode of your favorite show,
Varsity and the Youth Generation through Zone, Varsity and School News. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
Heading into international news, about 2.3 million people in the Philippines were pushed into poverty between 2018 and 2021, largely due to the economic downturn caused by the pandemic, the statistics agency said on Monday. The number of people living in poverty in 2021 rose to a total of almost 20 million, or 18.1% of the population, from 16.7% in 2018, the Philippine Statistics Authority said, overshooting the government's target of 15.5% to 17.5%. Recently inaugurated President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. aims to slash the poverty rate to 9% by the end of his single 6-year term in 2028, a target that remains achievable despite soaring inflation, according to Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. He said the government strategy will focus on fully reopening the economy, investing in human capital and social protection, and transforming production sectors to generate more and quality jobs and competitive products. The PSA, which defines poverty as including those Filipinos whose per capita income cannot sufficiently meet individual basic food and non-food needs, releases these statistics every 3 years. Balisacan said that before the pandemic in 2018, the country had achieved its goal of lifting 6 million Filipinos out of poverty. 4 years ahead of a 2022 target. But COVID-19 restrictions in 2020 and a long-running issue of poor households having limited access to regular and productive jobs had plunged many Filipinos back into difficulty, he said. China's military said it carried out more exercises near Taiwan on Monday as a group of U.S. lawmakers visited the Chinese-claimed island and met President Tsai Ing-wen in what Beijing said was an infringement of its sovereignty. The 5 U.S. lawmakers, led by Senator Ed Markey, arrived in Taipei on an unannounced visit late on Sunday, the second high-level group to visit following that of U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi in early August, which set off several days of Chinese war games. The Chinese military units responsible for the area adjacent to Taiwan, the People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command, said it had organized multi-service joint combat readiness patrols and combat drills in the sea and airspace around Taiwan earlier today. The exercises were a stern deterrent to the United States and Taiwan continuing to play political tricks and undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, it added. China's Defense Ministry said in a separate statement that the lawmakers' trip infringed on China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and fully exposes the true face of the United States as a spoiler of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Neither statement gave details of the drills. Taiwan Premier Su Tseng-Chang said they would not be deterred by China's response to such visits by foreign friends. China has never ruled out using force to bring Taiwan under its control. Taiwan's government says the People's Republic of China has never ruled the island and so has no right to claim it, and that only its 23 million people can decide their future. Now, in our African news, we managed to not mention that Kenya is actually at elections. In fact, we have mentioned in this story, in this news broadcast, that Kenya has been at elections at 3 p.m. Kenyans and Africans around the world will get the results of those elections. And something to add to the international news, happy Independence Day to India. Sports news after the break.
Kletskompas is 'n Afrikaanse kontinuïteitsprogram met Namibiese nuus en onderhoude. As jy jou handelsmerk of veldtog op hierdie platform wil vertoon, kontak klets@synergy.com.na.
Heading into local sport, two intriguing semi-finals have been booked for 20 August following Saturday's 14th and final round of matches in the Namibia Rugby Union Premier League. FNB Wanderers ensured that they will host a home semi-final next weekend when they beat Trusco United 54-26 on Saturday and scored 8 tries to hold the finish in the top spot. Wanderers will contest for a place in the final to be played on 3 September against 4th place FNB Rehoboth, while the ambitious coastal side FNB Kudus will have home advantage against FNB University of Namibia, while Walvis Bay-based Premier League rugby team FNB Kudus will play their Namibian Rugby Union semi-final at home in the harbour town. This will be a first and came after the team secured a 10-0 victory against Western Suburbs. Saturday was filled with nail-biting action at the University of Namibia's gym hall in the sunny capital city as some of the best teams under the Central Volleyball Association went head-to-head to battle it out in the league finals. The Khomas Nampo Volleyball Club men's team managed to bag a first-place win in a tight 5-set game against the Namibian Defence Forces A team. The team won by 3 points to 2, securing first place, a golden trophy, and a $5,000 Namibian cash prize. In second place with the cash prize of $3,000 was NDFA, followed by Kudos Sports Club. The league started on the 12th of March with a total of 11 clubs registering to compete and secure a spot in the top 3. A total of 19 teams, 7 female and 11 male, competed in the league. In the women's division, Kudos Sports Club managed to win first place against their longtime rivals, Revivals Volleyball Club, in a 3-2 set. The NDF Volleyball Club took home bronze medals in the women's division. The Namibia Volleyball Federation hosted 14 schools from northern Namibia to participate in a tournament last weekend. Held at the Ondangwa Tennis Court in the Oshana region, the federation hosted its first ever volleyball school tournament, and it was well attended from schools from Oshana, Ohangwena, Oshikoto, and Omusati. Sara Koongelwa Amadila Resource and Vocational School walked away as the winners of the tournament and received $3,500 Namibian in prize money. The first runners-up were the Haudano Senior Secondary School first team, who received a total of $2,000 Namibian, followed by Haudano's second team, who received $1,000. The Capricorn Group Schools Netball League hosted quarter-final games this weekend at the Office Park in Pioneers Park. The league that kicked off earlier this year in May had 46 teams from 15 schools, ranging from under 12 to under 19 participating. Windhoek Gymnasium made sure to display their talent on the court and collect points, as they are currently topping the log from under 13 age group through to the under 19. The under 19 team managed to bag a 44-17 win against the Windhoek Afrikaans Privaat School. The Office Park Netball netball court was left with scuff marks by skilled players from various schools, such as the talented Windhoek Gymnasium players, as well as the Aishipenas learners that proved to be worthy opponents for the Windhoek High School learners, as well as the Windhoek Afrikaans Preferred School players. Before the game kicked off between Moria Private School and Windhoek High School, Moria coach Peter Willem Esthuizen confidently said they had the best on the field to go against their competitors. Windhoek High School coach Ainsley Daniels added that they started off the season a bit choppy. WHS tackled the game from the backline and focused on its opponent's backline. The game started with Moria coming off strong. However, it was short-lived after Windhoek High School captain Kirion Majit got hold of the ball and stormed for a try just after 7 minutes in. Davido van Veek rounded off with the conversion kick, bagging the blue team their first 7 points. The atmosphere was electric with both teams bringing their A game. 11 minutes in, Windhoek High School scored another 3 points after a penalty kick. Majid scored another try after a 5-meter scrum, and shortly after, Armand Kotza bagged another try for his team. After 20 minutes of play, Moria's Toli Shipute gained his team their first 3 points after a penalty kick. Janko Berger, also from Moria Private School, managed to clinch the last try. The game concluded with a 7-point difference with a full-time score of 30-23 in favor of Windhoek High School. Esthuizen said his team struggled to react. Stick around as we get into international sports shortly. In international sport, Harry Kane snatched a 96th minute equalizer to salvage a 2-2 draw for Tottenham from a feisty London derby against Chelsea on Sunday. Both managers Antonio Conte and Thomas Tuchel were sent off after the full-time whistle for their second physical altercation of the match. Chelsea looked set to set a new era at Stamford Bridge, off to the best possible start as they twice led through Kalidou Koulibaly and Reece James. Tottenham were well off the level required if they are to live up to the hopes of challenging Manchester City and Liverpool for the title, but showed the newfound character instilled by Conte to fight back for a point. The Italian and Tuchel were both booked in the aftermath of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg's first equalizer. Tempers then flared again during a handshake after Kane nodded in with virtually the last action of the game. If you're just joining us, we'll bring you up to speed with the highlights from today's broadcast right after this commercial break.
The Talent Tech Focus will be published across our 3 daily publications, Republikein, Namibian Sun, and Algemeine Zeitung, offering nationwide distribution of A3 tabloid copies and additional coverage through a high-gloss tabloid-style magazine. The Talent Tech Focus will showcase the front-runners in the telecommunication and technology fields, offering innovation to the local market and aiming to showcase both established and emerging players in the areas of tech, software, and digital product and service provision.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Just before we get into the highlights, we'd like to remind you that it is India's Independence Day and Kenya's presidential election results will be out at 3 p.m. Now, in this afternoon's highlights, an electrical fire swept through an Egyptian Coptic Christian church during Mass on Sunday, causing a stampede and killing at least 41 people, most of them children, and many suffering from smoke inhalation. 2 intriguing semi-finals have been booked for 20 August following Saturday's 14th and final round of matches in the Namibia Rugby Union Premier League. About 2.3 million people in the Philippines were pushed into poverty between 2018 and 2021, largely due to the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. Those have been your highlights. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Ashwin Berry. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia and beyond. That's it from us in studio. Now we cross over to our regional review segment, which takes us to Ongwediva, where Tunohole Mungoba shares the latest developments from across Namibia's northern regions. Happy Monday.
Good day, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Regional Review. I am your host, Unole Mungoba, and I will be taking you through today's show, which is the Far North edition, where we focus on what has transpired in four corners of the northern part of Namibia, which is Ohangwena, Omosati, Oshikoto, and the Oshana region. So please stay tuned as we get into our news segment, and do not touch the dial, as I will be right back on your screens. First agenda for today, we attended the first Enana Agri Expo, which was held in Enana, which is in the Ohangwena region. The aim of this expo was to provide a platform for subsistence farmers, so livestock, vegetation, agriculture. There were also different exhibitors who were selling homemade goods such as food, traditional food, traditional brews, as well as arts and crafts. It was well attended, and there were also different dignitaries such as the Deputy Minister of Land Reform, as well as the Governor of Ohangwena region and the Mayor of Enana. Please watch this video prepared by me, Tunuhole Mungoba.
Turned into a white elephant. I want to say the same thing to the people of Angwena. We mean business. Business is our future. We have come to impact knowledge, to the future generation of this land through Ohangwena region. We therefore request parents, guardians, to ensure that instead of sending students to Benduk, IUM Benduk, or any other institutions, education is just here at your doorsteps.
Of the International University of Management campus in Enana. It is indeed a milestone in the development of this growing town, Enana, which is the regional capital of Angwena, and we need to applaud and give a round of applause not only to Enana Town Council, but to IUM leadership for taking this bold decision to set up this campus in Enana. Can we give them a round of applause?
11235 vea kwa hiyo nabo tu. Omake?
Yes. That's the official groundbreaking IUM Enana campus. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you.
Another story, which is also from the Ohangwena region, the International University of Management, also known as IUM, has officially started with the construction of their 7th campus, which is going to be in Enana. We attended the groundbreaking ceremony, which is going to be situated behind the Haimbili Haifiku Secondary School in the town. Founder and chairperson of the council, Dr. David Namwandi, says that it has long been in the pipeline for IUM to extend to the Hangwena region, and has urged parents to make sure that they send their their children to the Enana campus instead of transporting them or sending them all the way to Windhoek and other parts of the country. Please watch this video for more.
While I was going through the daily print media, that MTC has also initiated a support program for horticulture production, also targeting the youth. So these are all opportunities that we can tap in and take advantage of. Apart from the facilities that are in place for the youth, it is also important to share with you that government over the years has created an enabling environment that serves as a basis for producers and agro-industry players in general to engage in viable agribusiness undertakings and ventures with forward and backward value chain linkages. Essentially, the onus is now on our producers to adopt a business approach to agriculture.
Strawberry. Yeah, this is a strawberry. Unafara mau is a gooseberry. Unafara mau pata ko pore. Pore ko ile ilimate processing ushwesi pewa. Yeah. O penali is sasa kwa unafara mau.
We are back again with another episode of your favorite show,
Scholars, Varsity and the youth generation through Zone, Varsity and School News. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
And for our interview section, we spoke to Mr. Hilary Imbawa and Festus Hamukwaya, who are part of the Namibia Volleyball Federation. They hosted the first school volleyball tournament in Ondangwa, which is in the Oshana region, and it was proudly sponsored by Bank Windhoek. The event was brought together by the chairperson, who is Mr. Festus, and he says that it is a great platform for young learners to work together and to collaborate and to also have fun while keeping fit. Please watch this video, this interview segment for more.
The event is actually the Bank Windhoek NVF tournament. This is the initiative of the NVF because we believe schools play a very important role when it comes to volleyball development or any sport. is the reason why we felt from the small budget that we get from Bank Windhoek, let's reserve a little bit of a budget that we are able to sponsor such a tournament for schools, because this tournament will give opportunity for these kids so that they are able to polish their skills and they are able to compete at such a level. Because this is a first of its kind. We have never had such a school tournament before, and we are really impressed that with the numbers that we got here with 12 schools that have turned up today. It's really a great honor to us that we are able to attract such a massive participation, where we wish this must not end here. Come next year, we want to call on more stakeholders on board so that we are able to have such an event in other parts of the country. Volleyball has grown and it continues to grow, but we can only grow it better when we involve schools. We give opportunities such as this to schools. And we also want to extend our appreciation to Bank Windhoek for allowing us this opportunity to extend this development to schools. And all we can ask is that with the schools that are going to walk away with the prize money, please, the money that made out of volleyball should be invested back into volleyball, because it's the only way we can grow the game. Volleyball has become a lifestyle for many, and we want to see it growing in all parts. Either you are in Kunene, you are in Omaheke, you are in Zambezi, we want to see the volleyball grow. And it can only grow when we work together, the NVF and the Namibia School Sports Union, together with our association in the regions.
Far Northern Volleyball Association is the host for the first edition of what we call Bank Windhoek NVF School Tournament 2022. We started with the organization of this tournament in a period of a month and a half, of which we got 14 schools in total. That is catered for the regions Oshana, Oshkoto, Omosati, Oangwena, and Oshana. The schools, it's very, very impressive from the school side, because through the NSSU, we managed to get a lot of schools. The kids are motivated, the kids feel excited, the kids, they like it. Some, they are noticing their talent in volleyball today. The tournament is taking place here at Ndangwa Tennis Court. This is where the Far Northern Volleyball Association mostly hosts their league games. Most of the kids here were selected for under-20 national team, and they're also part and parcel of these school teams, which are motivating those who are not selected and those who are also noticing their talents today. From our side, we thank Bank Windhoek and NVF, but most importantly, NSSU, which is the custodian of schools and the learners, for bringing this on board, and also the teachers for engaging the kids at their respective schools on volleyball. What I can say on behalf of the region, since we are the volleyball board here in the north, we are very, very impressed on how the school leaderships are motivating the kids and bringing sport to their respective schools. We highly appreciate what we are going to motivate is through our stakeholders to come on board, as we are planning to make this event yearly for the next 3 or 4 years. And we will be hosting it. We can rotate it to say, this year is in Oshana, next year we take it to Omosati, take it to Oshkoto, and we bring it to Oshana, so that everybody, they feel at home, and all the kids need to be motivated and participate in the tournament. Thank you.
Just give us a brief overview on how many schools and what is the total number of participants that you have?
We have 13 schools. Each school sent 10 kids. So if you say 10 multiplied by 13, it's roughly plus minus 130 kids on the ground today, yes.
And they are all coming from Northern Namibia? Or?
Yeah, they are only from Oshkoto, Oshana, Omosati, and the Oangwena region.
So
the 4 regions, yes. Thank you.
To the referee, please. Time is back. It's now 11:2. So please come and take the picture. You also have a please. Adana and the goal is the second B, please. Let's move. All the coaches are advised to come and take the ball. And no way,
Tourismus Namibia is a weekly tourism show that brings you the latest news in the tourism industry and topics related to that. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact tourismus@synergy.com.na for news and advertising related queries. Tourismus, bring the world to Namibia.
The heat continues unabated in the far north, with Umuthia registering up to 38-degree daytime temperatures this week. Oshakati is somewhat cooler, but only by a degree, while Ondangwa is even hotter, reaching up to 39 degrees on Wednesday and Thursday. Utapi is the coolest of the northern towns, with 33-degree daytime temps expected today and tomorrow, although Wednesday is expected to reach 35 degrees. Stay cool.
Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us for another episode of Regional Review. From myself, Sunole Mungoba, and the rest of the Regional Review team, it is goodbye. We hope that you have a beautiful, fantastic, and productive Monday, and you will be seeing this face once again on Friday for the Friday Recap Show. From myself, Sunole Mungoba, and the rest of the Namibia Media Holdings team, it is goodbye, and I will see you on Friday.